Hello and welcome to our daily devotion from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm Pastor Adam Moline. Merry Christmas season to you as we continue today to take a look at the life of King David. We've been going through the book of 1 Samuel, learning about how David's life is fulfilled in the person and work of Jesus. Last week we didn't hear much about David. Instead, we heard about King Saul, who consulted the witch at Endor, a necromancer or a medium, whatever word you'd like to use, and found out that he was going to lose a battle to the Philistines. As we heard about that, at the same time, the Philistines are headed off to fight Saul, and David has been living amongst them, operating as sort of a king's bodyguard for the king of the Philistines, Achish, and we're going to find out today about whether or not the Philistines really want a future Hebrew king fighting with them against the Hebrews themselves. So we're going to look at 1 Samuel chapter 29. Now the Philistines had gathered all their forces at Aphek, and the Israelites were encamped by the spring that is in Jezreel. As the lords of the Philistines were passing by hundreds and thousands, David and his men were passing on in the rear, with Achish, the commander of the Philistines, said, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And Achish said to the commanders of the Philistines, "Is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me now for days and years? And since he deserted to me, I have found no fault in him to this day." But the commanders of the Philistines were still angry with him. And the commanders of the Philistines said to him, "Send the man back, that he may return to the place which you have assigned him. He shall not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become an adversary to us. For how could this fellow reconcile himself to his Lord? Would it not be with the heads of the men here? Is not this David of whom they sing to one another in dances? Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Then Achish called David and said to him, "As the Lord lives, you have been honest, and to me it seems right that you should march out and in with me in this campaign. For I have found nothing wrong with you from the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, the lords do not approve of you. So go back now and go peaceably, that you may not displease the lords of the Philistines." And David said to Achish, "But what have I done? What have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until now, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?" And Achish answered David and said, "I know that you are as blameless in my sight as the angel of God. Nevertheless, the commanders of the Philistines have said, 'He shall not go up with us into the battle.' Now then, rise early in the morning with the servants of your Lord, who came with you, and start early in the morning, and depart as soon as you have light." So David set out with his men early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines. But the Philistines went up to Jezreel. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Now, this particular text might not be quite as clear as some of the other ones, at least not in finding its fulfillment in the person and work of Jesus. But what I do want to show you here is that in these words, our Lord God is actually taking care of David. He's watching over him and making sure that David will not break the vow that he made earlier to raise up his hand against the Lord's anointed one, who is still Saul as king, at least in this sense. David has sworn not to hurt or harm Saul, and yet now he's marching up into battle. The Philistines, afraid that he'll be a turncoat and instead attack them, refused to go to battle with him. So King Achish sends him back amongst his own people. This will allow, as we'll hear in a couple of days, the Philistines to actually win the battle, to have Saul killed. And this will then allow David to become king, not by his own work, but rather by the work of God, working through the Philistine army, killing Saul. At the same time, it's also going to allow David to return back to his home and to fulfill what Saul had refused to do. Many chapters ago in 1 Samuel, Saul refused to destroy the people of the Amalekites. And this made God angry, so angry in fact that God sent the prophet Samuel to see Saul. And Samuel hacked to pieces the king of the Amalekites and killed all of their livestock and the people that had been captured. Now David, when he returns to his home, finds that the remnant of the Amalekites have attacked his home and taken away his wives and his children. And David is going to have vengeance upon them. We'll hear that next week. And in this sense, David is picking up where Saul had failed before. David is doing the things that Saul had refused to do. He is showing himself to be the true king of Israel, David. In this way, too, Jesus is going to ultimately do the things that we have been unable to do. He's going to live a perfect life. He's going to fulfill God's will. He's anointed to be the king. He's enthroned on the cross. He fulfills all that we fail and is, in that sense, also the true king of Israel. I know there's been a lot of narrative taking place, and it's going to continue some next week as we prepare to see the ascension of David as the king of Israel. So keep track of all these things, and we'll keep working through this text in the weeks ahead. God's blessings on your day.